everything you think you know about the wonders of the world. It's a carefully constructed lie. Literally, a lie. If you're sitting there picturing the Eiffel Tower or, I don't know, the Colosseum right now, you've been sold a completely fabricated story. Well, okay, let's just dive straight into this explainer, because the actual, real history of human creation, it is way more brutal, dramatic, and honestly, fascinating than any tourist brochure is ever going to tell you. So the reality check here is pretty wild. How did structures like the Colosseum actually snag that World Wonder title in the modern era? You'd think it was some grand historical consensus by top experts, right? Nope, it was a poll. Actually, in 2001, a group of random Swedes just decided to let the internet vote on it. And yeah, you can guess exactly what happened next. Nationalism and cold, hard tourism money completely took over. Countries basically rigged the votes to make sure their monuments became these massive cash cows, while actual surviving ancient wonders, like the Great Pyramid of Giza, were just totally left off the list. I mean, it's an absolute sham. So let's take a look at the real wonders, starting with the absolute, undisputed king of them all, the Great Pyramid of Giza. 2.3 million. That is the staggering number of massive stone blocks they had to haul to build this 146-meter behemoth around 4,500 years ago. And get this, it wasn't the dusty, jagged mountain of stone that we see today. Originally, it was this brilliant, blindingly white, impenetrable fortress of a tomb. It was specifically designed to protect the pharaoh Khufu, so he could safely ascend to join the Egyptian gods. Talk about pure cinematic scale, right? And you know, this perfectly illustrates a major misconception that we really need to clear up right now. You've probably heard all those wild conspiracy theories out there, right? That it was built by ancient aliens, or maybe it was some kind of giant wireless electricity generator, or even that super common myth that it was built entirely by slaves. Well, the truth is it was a massive, highly coordinated human collaboration. Skilled Egyptian workers and hired labor forces actually pulled this incredible feat of engineering off in just 20 short years. So no aliens here, just breathtaking human ingenuity. But hey, here's where the ancient drama really starts to heat up, because our next wonder, it might be completely made up. I'm talking about the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. According to ancient Greek historians, King Nebuchadnezzar II built this stunning, lush green mountain right in the heart of modern-day Iraq for his homesick wife. And he allegedly used this remarkably advanced irrigation system, kind of like an early Archimedes screw, to pump water all the way to the top. It sounds like this beautiful, romantic epic straight out of Shakespeare, doesn't it? But here is the catch. Archaeologists have totally scoured the ruins of Babylon and found absolutely zero physical evidence that it ever existed. None. It might literally just be ancient fiction. Now, our next wonder definitely existed, for sure, and its end brings us to our first real historical tragedy. The magnificent Temple of Artemis over in ancient Turkey. This colossal temple stood incredibly proud for hundreds of years, pulling in visitors from far and wide. So what actually brought it down? An ancient attention seeker. Seriously, a guy so desperately obsessed with getting eternal fame that he snuck in during the dead of night and burned the entire masterpiece to the ground. He was basically the ancient world's very first, and easily most destructive, TikToker, pulling off this devastating stunt purely for clout. It's like the universe just would not let this temple survive. After being rebuilt even bigger and better, and standing strong for about 800 years, it was just relentlessly targeted. First off, it was set ablaze in 268 AD by rampaging Goths, who honestly just wanted to cause some chaos. Then, skip to 408 AD, and a Christian mob comes in and completely wrecks the place. Ultimately, the ruins were just recycled. They used the scrap materials to go build the Hagia Sophia. Talk about a tragic, chaotic end for such a legendary structure. Now, you might be wondering, were all these wonders built out of noble worship? Definitely not. Some were born from sheer, petty human jealousy. Enter the colossal statue of Zeus. So the city of Athens had just hired this super famous sculptor named Phidias to make a giant statue. Well, the judges of the Olympic Games got incredibly jealous. Their mindset was basically, hey, we can't have those filthy peasants east of us outdoing us with a statue of a deity. So they literally slipped the sculptor 50 gold bars to build an even bigger, more impressive statue of Zeus just to flex on the rivals. That's right, an epic monument fueled entirely by ancient world drama and cultural pride. Speaking of drama, our next wonder literally invented a word that we use every single day, mausoleum. It comes directly from Mausolus, who was the ancient governor of Caria in modern-day Turkey. When he died, his sister, who, by the way, was also his wife because, well, it was a very different time back then, was absolutely devastated. She spared no expense whatsoever, hiring the absolute greatest artists of the era to build him this jaw-dropping 44-meter-tall tomb topped with a colossal chariot statue. It was so undeniably epic that literally any grand tomb built since has just been called a mausoleum. And what do you think happened to this legendary tomb? It actually survived almost everything you could possibly throw at it for 1,700 years. It survived Alexander the Great, it survived aggressive pirates, it even survived massive fires. But the ultimate irony? In 1494, a group of terrified holy knights who were hiding in absolute panic from the advancing Ottoman Empire completely dismantled what was left of this beautiful ancient wonder. They tore it apart just to use those legendary stones to reinforce their own puny little hideout. And the real kicker? They still got absolutely destroyed anyway. But hey, if you want true cinematic conflict, we have to travel back to the year 304 BC. The wealthy, independent island state of Rhodes is this massive center of commerce and trade in the Mediterranean. And Demetrius, this super power-hungry ruler of the Antigonid dynasty, wants all that wealth for himself. This sparks the epic siege of Rhodes. We are talking about a brutal, relentless, year-long bombardment where an entire island was completely cut off from the world and forced to fight for its very survival. To crush them, Demetrius brought in what I can only describe as a final boss. It was literally called the Taker of Cities. It was this monstrous, terrifying siege tower standing 40 meters tall and 20 meters wide. This thing was packed with 16 massive ballistas spread across 7 floors, and it carried an unbelievable crew of 3,400 soldiers. Just imagine this for a second, a 7-story mountain of wood and iron slowly rolling toward your city walls, threatening to wipe your entire civilization right off the map. But here is the climax, guys. The Rhodians held their ground. With the help of some Egyptian allies, they miraculously survived the siege. They forced the enemy into this chaotic retreat, and Demetrius ended up leaving almost all of his massive war machines behind. And in what has to be the ultimate ancient world flex, the people of Rhodes didn't just throw a party to celebrate. No, they melted down that terrifying enemy siege tower, they used all that abandoned bronze and iron to forge a colossal 30-meter statue of their sun god Helios. The Colossus of Rhodes was literally physically born from the ashes of war. But of course, there is a totally tragic irony to this victory. While the Great Pyramid has stood for over 4,500 years, the most epic, triumphant wonder of them all, the Colossus of Rhodes, was actually the shortest-lived wonder in history. Just 56 years after it was finished, a massive earthquake rolled through, snapped the giant bronze statue right at its ankles, and it just collapsed straight to the floor. Such an incredibly brief life for such a magnificent triumph, right? Now, if Rhodes was a monument to survival, our final wonder was just an insane, unadulterated display of elite wealth. I'm talking about the Lighthouse of Alexandria. This wasn't just some functional building. It was an extreme flex that would cost an estimated $100 million in today's money. It was a towering, 130-meter-tall beacon built right on a coastal rock in Egypt. But you have to ask yourself, why on earth would they spend so much money on a massive lighthouse when a basic, normal one would do the exact same job? Well, it wasn't just about safety. It was all about dominating trade. The Alexandrian elites cleverly used polished bronze, mirrors, and lenses to amplify a single wood flame into the absolute brightest man-made light in the entire world at that time. It safely guided these wealthy merchants through stormy nights and treacherous waters straight into their port. By making navigation so incredibly safe, they essentially lured all the best merchants away from their competitors, kind of like moths to a flame. And that made the Alexandrian elites unimaginably richer for over 1,500 years. Which brings us to a pretty profound twist, and honestly a question that really challenges us today. Why did the ancient world build for culture while we seem to only build for the economy? Think about the people of Rhodes for a second. They just survived a devastating war that totally ruined their infrastructure and their economy. By today's logic, they absolutely should have sold all that leftover enemy scrap metal for a massive pile of cash just to rebuild. But instead, they chose to melt it down to create a breathtaking monument to their god, their culture, and their pride. And that leaves us with a final, provocative thought to take away from this explainer. Just look at the structures we build today. For the most part, they are largely dull, repetitive, and driven almost entirely by economic benefit and profit margins. It really feels like we've lost that ancient spark of building magnificent monuments just for the sheer awe of it, just to celebrate who we are as a people. So, when the dust settles thousands of years from now, what is our modern legacy going to be? Will future archaeologists look back in wonder at a suburban office park, or are we leaving behind a totally boring legacy? Let that sink in for a minute, and as always, keep questioning what you know.